Hi everybody, welcome to the CompuScholar Professional Development webinar for October 2020. Today we're going to be talking about some of the advanced ways you can work with CompuScholar quizzes and tests. My name is Chris Yost. I'm the president of CompuScholar, and I've spent a couple of decades as a software engineer before moving over to CompuScholar and working on online curriculum for computer science and digital literacy. I'm always happy to answer your questions if you'd like to email me at chris.yost@compuscholar.com. So today, again, we're going to explore the intricacies of the quiz and test engine that's built into the CompuScholar system. So we'll start with a bit of an overview, and then we'll talk about the standard features briefly that you're probably already familiar with, and then move into some of the advanced settings, and we'll show you how you can add your own assessments, and then wrap up with a brief discussion of how you might do some per-student accommodations in cases where those are necessary. So big picture, the discussion today is really only applicable to courses that are hosted in CompuScholar's own system. So if you and your students are logging in to learning.compuscholar.com in order to access the course material, then proceed. This will be applicable to you. If you have imported your CompuScholar courses into Canvas or Schoology or some other LMS, then actually most of the material here would not apply to you because you would be using the native quiz engines that are built into those learning management systems instead. Along the same lines, the editing features that we're going to talk about are only available to our public and private school teachers that have their own copies of the classrooms in our system. If you're a homeschool family and you happen to be watching this webinar, homeschool families don't have editing rights to shared copies of the courses that they're using, so this material would not apply to homeschool families as well. I do want to mention that in our system, quizzes and tests are actually identical. So other than the fact that they're labeled differently and categorized differently in the gradebook, all the capabilities that we're going to talk about apply equally well to quizzes and tests. And I'll probably just use the term quiz to refer to all of these things during the discussion today. I also want to mention that all of the changes that you do on a quiz or test basis are done per course. So if you have 2 or 3 or more copies of a particular CompuScholar course, and you want to make modifications or additions to the quiz and test settings, then you would need to do those things on a course-by-course basis so that the changes you make in one course are not automatically copied out to every course that you happen to own. I do also want to mention that the answer key PDFs that you're probably familiar with within the teacher's material are not updated. So those are not things that you can change on your own. They're just static files that we have out in our content cloud that reflect the original nature of the quizzes and tests. So if you go in and add questions or change questions or add your own assessments, the answer key PDFs would not be automatically updated to match the changes that you make. Okay, let's get started by quickly recapping some of the standard features that you're probably already familiar with. From your teacher's menu, you can click on Configure Course to fiddle with some of the quiz settings. You can do a single-click show and hide with that convenient eyeball icon. And you can also manage your quiz and test attempts from the gradebook. So let's flip over to our online system and take a quick peek at those things. So I'm logged into one of our courses, and again, all the courses work the same way. On your teacher's menu, I'm going to click on Configure Course. And you can see there are a number of settings that are specifically rated to quizzes. So you can change the number of attempts that students get on each quiz. You can change the grading method, whether you want the highest grade or the average grade or their first or last attempt. You can also make some changes here about showing students which questions they got right or wrong, whether or not to show the correct answers afterwards, and that sort of thing. And of course you have the same options for exams, exactly the same options. So if you want to give exams a different number of attempts than your quizzes, then you can do that here and just click Save Changes when you're done. And these settings will apply to all quizzes and tests throughout the entire course. Now, as you probably already know, the standard way to administer a quiz is simply to unhide it when you're ready for the students to take that. So let's dive into a chapter. And you can see there's an eyeball icon next to the quiz. In this particular quiz here in Chapter 2, Lesson 1 is currently hidden from students. So if you want to make this quiz available to students to take, you can simply click on the eyeball icon. And that quiz is now visible to students. You can see the eyeball is now green, so that means that students can see that. And if you hover your mouse over the icon, it will tell you it's currently visible and what will happen if you click on it. So when your students are done and you want to hide the quiz again, just click on that eyeball again. And the last standard feature that we'll briefly review is your ability to manage the attempts on specific quizzes within the gradebook. So let's go into the gradebook. And if a particular student has already exhausted all of their attempts for a quiz or a test and you want to allow more attempts, you can click on the name of that quiz and then scroll down. And here you would actually have a list of all the student attempts. You can click on a student attempt and then delete that attempt, and that would free up the student to take that assessment again. So if you'd like a more detailed walkthrough of how to do this within the gradebook, we'll go back to the Teachers menu, click on Professional Development, Common Administrative Features, and then take a look at the video called Using the Gradebook. So that will walk you through all the gradebook features, including the removal of assessments for quizzes and tests if you want the students to retake those things. Okay, so now let's dive into some of the more advanced settings. These are things that you may not be familiar with, and these are kind of the heart of the presentation that we wanted to give today. So if you edit the settings on a particular quiz, you can do things like add some advanced timing, you can change the layout of the questions, you can modify some of the other options. So let's go take a look at how to do that now. So I'm looking at a chapter, and let's go ahead and just click on the name of a quiz. And instead of previewing the quiz as a teacher, you'll want to click on the gear icon in the top right corner and select Edit Settings. So from this page, you can change many of the details about how the quiz appears and how it's administered, everything from changing the name to the timing. So you can come in here and expand all these options and just kind of explore the things that are available to you. So you can do things like, for example, open the assessment at a certain date and time and close it on a certain date and time, and you'll still want to make sure that the quiz is visible to the students during that time frame. You can click on the grade. You can change the number of attempts individually here if you want to, change the individual grading method here if you want to. On the layout, the default is to show all the questions on one page, but you can change that. If we look at question behavior, you'll see that by default the answers are shuffled within the questions. So again, the A, B, C, D order of the questions are randomized every time a student will take that. You can change that if you want to. If we click Review Options, you can see there are a bunch of options on whether or not to show students certain things, and you can change what is shown to the students either after they're done or while the quiz is still open, while the quiz is closed, and that sort of thing. For the most part, you won't need to mess with any of these settings, but these are here for you if you'd like to play around with them. There's nothing too interesting in appearance, so we'll skip over that. Let's look at extra restrictions on attempts. If you'd like, you can actually add a password to the quiz. So if you want to open up a quiz only for certain students, you could add a password to that quiz and then give that password just to those students. And there's some advanced settings here as well if you'd like to take a look at those. If you'd like to provide some automatic feedback to your students based on their grade level, you can add different levels of feedback here based on their grade, and that would just be a comment that is sent back to the students. The common module settings you'll want to just leave alone. There's nothing you really want to change within that area. If we look at restrict access, you can add restrictions to things like specific students, so you can add filters for access based on the student's profile, their username, and that sort of thing. So there's a bunch of advanced settings in here as well. And you'll probably want to ignore the activity completion and the tags. The activity completion shows that check mark when the student receives a grade, and so you'll probably want to leave that alone. And there's no reason to go in there and add any tags to the quizzes. So as you can see, there are quite a few complex settings here within the quiz editing engine, and so you're welcome to come in here and play around with these. We do advise some caution, so if you're not sure what a feature does, you're welcome to send us a question, or if you just want to play around with it and see how it behaves on your own, then you're welcome to do that as well. Alright, so let's talk about adding new quizzes and tests. So you can actually add brand new quizzes or tests on your own. So to do that, you would actually turn editing on within your course and then add that quiz activity. You can go in and configure the details that we just showed you and then go ahead and add the questions. So let's show you how to do that. So let's say within chapter 2 I decided I wanted to add a new quiz. Turn editing on. and then click Add an Activity or Resource. I'm going to select Quiz. We need to give the quiz a name. And this is your quiz editing page, so all of the things that we showed you earlier, these are here and available for you. I'm just going to leave everything at their default settings and click Save and Display. So we're now working on this quiz, and as you can see, no questions have been added yet, so we can edit the assessment. And by the way, let me go ahead and click on Back to the Course just to show you where to get to this page if you need to in the future. So once you've edited this quiz here, you can move it around within the lesson. So I'm just going to drag it here into, let's say, right into lesson 1. And once that quiz is in place, you can actually turn editing off. Now to get back to the question management, I'm going to click on the demo quiz link again. And you can either click Edit Assessment, or if you want to change existing questions on an existing quiz, you can click on the gear icon and do the Edit Assessment link from here. So either way will get you to the same page. So here's my quiz. The quiz is currently empty because I just created it. So you can change the maximum grade, so you can set that to 100%, for example, if you want it to be consistent with the rest of our quizzes. So I'll click Save there. Now let's go ahead and add some questions. I'll click Add, and then a new question. And all of our questions are multiple choice, so you can select multiple choice here. If you want to experiment with some of the other question types, you can do that. I'll click Add. So the question name is just some sort of internal name that just needs to be unique. So let's just call it Demo 1. And here's your question. Type in the question. And then you have answers. So we can go ahead and click an answer here. And this is where you choose whether or not it's the correct answer. So if it's the correct answer, you give it 100%. If it's an incorrect answer, you can type in an incorrect answer. And you just leave the grade at none, and that will be an incorrect answer. And you can add as many choices as you'd like here. And then when you're done, just come on down here and click Save Changes. Right? And now you have that question within your quiz. And you can add additional questions. You can also select from the question bank. So the question bank contains all of the quiz and test questions that are found throughout the course. And it can be a little tricky navigating through them, but they tend to have some sort of name that makes sense, like Chapter 11 Exam Question 18. So if you want to pull that question, for example, you just check it and then add it to the quiz. Of course, you can select multiple questions, add those questions to the quiz. And you can see those questions are now in your quiz. Right? And that's all you have to do. So if we go back here to the chapter, we click on the quiz again, and we preview it, you can now see we have not only the question that we customize ourselves, but the questions that we added from the question banks. And presto, you've created a new quiz. Let's go back to the settings for one last important detail. I'm going to scroll down here to the grade option. You will want to select a grade category. So if this is a quiz that you're adding, select quizzes, and that would categorize it with the rest of the quizzes in the course. If this is a new exam that you're creating, you can select exams instead, and that will categorize it with the exams. And of course you can select the attempts allowed and so forth, just like you can with all the rest of the quizzes and tests. So that's a quick overview of how you would add your own quizzes and tests. If you have any questions, you're certainly welcome to contact us for additional details. And again, remember that as you do this in one of your courses, you would need to replicate those quizzes or tests or any changes that you want spread across all the rest of your courses as well. So the last thing I wanted to mention today is that we do occasionally get requests from schools or districts that need to customize a quiz on a per-student basis. So possibly you have a student with special needs of some sort and they're unable to take the quiz as is within the online infrastructure. Perhaps they need to use pencil and paper or have some other sort of physical accommodations, or maybe you just need to modify the questions or the answers to reduce the number of answers or give the students additional hints and that sort of thing. So within our system, the quizzes and tests are all done on a course-by-course basis, so there is no facility to customize a quiz per student. You can create a new quiz and then restrict access to just a particular student if you would like to do that. However, we find teachers actually tend to prefer an alternate method that I've described here in the second paragraph, and that is to simply create a Word document from the answer key PDF and then modify that Word document however they want to, and then administer that new quiz from that document either by printing it out and giving it to the student by pencil and paper, or electronically trying to administer those questions and answers through any other means that makes sense to that special needs student. And then when the student has finished the quiz or test, the teacher would grade that and then manually record the grade in the grade book. So let me show you that process very quickly. So within the course, you'll have the quiz answer key link, and if you click on that, of course, you'll get the answer keys. You can download this to a local file. We'll just save this somewhere on my hard drive. Now within Microsoft Word, you can actually open that PDF directly. So File, Open, and we'll select that PDF. And it may give you a little conversion prompt. Click OK. And before too long, you should have the original PDF converted into a Word document. And you can come in here and obviously change anything that you like in this Word document, save it to any format that you like, and then give that quiz or test to your student in order to take that separately. So that's a quick walkthrough of some of our advanced quiz and test engine features within our system. I hope you're able to take advantage of those if you need them for your classroom. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're happy to work with you and help figure out how to make things work in your particular environment. Thanks so much for watching.